Morning, ladies. Let's see if anybody's on. I'm just on my phone as well, just checking to see whether or not I am going live yet. Think I am. See if anyone's going to join. If anybody's there. So I'm looking this way because I'm going to see whether or not anybody else is going to join this live. So happy New Year. How are we all? Are we well? If you're here, can you say hello in the comments for me so I can know that you're here? Live. And then I'm able to see whether or not you're in. So let's see. New Year. How are we? I'm going to turn down my volume at this end so I can see Karen's there. Two Karens are there. You're going to say hello in the comments this morning? How are we all? Morning, Karen. Morning, other Karen. How are we all? So, and here's Archie, who's a bit miserable this morning. So I'm working at home and we're in a lockdown, so I can't really go anywhere else. Debbie's in. Morning. So I was going to do something a bit different this morning. It's a bit workshoppy, actually. So I'm going to need your involvement, ladies, so you can't disappear now. We're going to do a little bit around confidence and realizing your value, all as part of Network She's Business and Personal Development Day. So what do I want to go through? I'm going to look at confidence in terms of your value, realizing what you're worth. So you might want to watch this back later and do a couple of the exercises, or you might want to do it as we're going along. It's totally up to you. So let me share a screen. I feel like I'm back presenting at work. So let's share this. So if you're watching, like I said, say hello. If you're watching and ready to take part, I hope you are. And if you're watching it on replay, then you might want to put replay in the comments, or you might want to put some comments in now. So what was I going to talk about? Let's see. So objectives for this year. It's going to be an interesting start to the year because it's going to feel a little bit like the last part of the year. But with a little bit of maybe a change in our approach, we might be able to make some difference. So I'm going to scoot through some slides this morning, which I hope will help you toward realizing your value, saying no to stuff when people ask you to do things for nothing or too cheaply, and maybe give you a little bit of confidence around that. So I can see we've got some other people watching. If you're watching now, would you like to say hello in the comments so I know who you are? So some things for you to think about and consider. What's your business objective for this year? If you've got any of those, Debbie's waiting for a plumber to come in. Right, okay. I hope that's not the fact that you're freezing like mad and your heating's not working, Debbie. So have you got a business objective for this year? If you have, what is it? Good morning, Vicky. What's your business objective for this year? If you're watching this live now, do you want to put your business objective in for this year? Or maybe what your personal objective is for this year? What might that be? Have you thought about that yet for this year? Have you got a financial goal? Actually, after this call, I'm going on to work with my team to look at what our financial objectives are for this year. So if you've got a business objective or a personal objective, how about popping it in the comments? Vicky's might be to grow her YouTube channel because Vicky Cutler's a little bit of a YouTube sensation, which keeps it under a hat. So this is about what is your value. So what's your personal value and what is your value to your business clients? So increase customers, Karen says. Okay, so increase your customer volumes. So I'd want to be specific about that, Karen, and what number do you want? How many of those customers do you want? And what value of those customers do you want? And then what do we mean when we use that term of value? So I'm going to take you through some stuff. What does it mean to you in your business? What does value mean to you? Are you aware of just how much value you actually deliver to your customers? So Karen's going to increase that value by making sure that there's nobody working in any of her client industries that ought not to be working, that are inappropriate for that role, or that maybe have some kind of spurious background that they ought not to have. So it's about what value are you delivering to you and what is your value and what's your value to your customers. But sometimes not knowing that value is really difficult. And then you have difficulty in knowing how to portray that value to your clients. So my objective is to sell. So Karen says, have closed my business or got open, had sold, it's fallen through my objective to sell soon and move to, objective to sell soon and move. I see more of what you're saying there. And get a job. Right, okay, so this might still apply to you in terms of knowing what your value is. Vicky, to get to the next level in my business and to help more people. Well, you do plenty of helping so far, Vicky, so I can imagine that you'll be well on your way to doing more of that. Good morning, Laura. So issues, sometimes not knowing your value may create. So anxiety in discussing money, sometimes we get a bit nervous when clients ask us about the financial side of things. Fear of discussing what that cost might be. Or in Vicky's case, she probably hasn't got a fear because she's busy saving people lots of money. Maybe avoidance of discussing proposals. I know I had this initially when I wasn't sure what the value was of the service that I was delivering, and I was discounting too much and giving stuff away for free. Sometimes even a reluctance to kind of almost do business because you're bothered about getting into those conversations. Then you get frustrated with yourself for not doing more and for not trying that bit more and going at it a bit more enthusiastically. Debbie says our objective is to find work and set up a business. So what's the business that we're setting up, Debbie? You need to tell me more about that. Sometimes that can lead to a bit of a lack of self-esteem because you're punishing yourself all the time for having not taken those steps, and you always think about it afterwards rather than, at the time you kind of get quite nervous, and then later on you kind of berate yourself really for not sticking to your guns. So that can lead to that lack of confidence, and this is all about the bit that the captain was talking about this morning in terms of what we're going to be doing. Yeah, cake making. I've seen it, Debbie. I've seen them. Ace. So we can then lead to missed opportunities because we've lacked that confidence, we've damaged our self-esteem, and then we've not discussed it and we've backed away from it in some cases. And sometimes it leads to us giving our product and our service away too cheaply because we just want to get the business. We're almost apologetic for it. And I'm hoping this might help you to maybe lose some of that approach, not be so apologetic. And if we do that, we discount our services too much, it's really difficult to be able to get that value back. So if you've seen something that's a service that's been discounted, how are you able to then realize the real value of it later? Because you've seen it cheaper somewhere else. So you're not going to pay the full whack for it. And that happens with us in our businesses if we don't stick to our kind of pricing guns. So what if we were able to fix some of those issues? So take a minute to write down. Normally when I do this in a workshop, it's on a piece of paper. You might not want to share this right now. How much are you comfortable charging at the moment? It's a really difficult question to ask ourselves sometimes. Are we comfortable? Are we comfortable in what we're charging? Do we think it's too little? And then we're not looking at what our value is. So how much are you currently comfortable? Store that on a piece of paper, if you will, and then just pop that to one side. Or you're back, Karen. Good-o. And we'll come back to that shortly. So having a plan, and then the imposter syndrome and return on investment. So there are a couple of things that I'm going to look at that can increase confidence for you. Objective is to stop discounting my work as I work hard for it. Exactly, Laura. And that's the problem. We all work way too hard, and then we don't translate that value when it comes to charging for it. We feel apologetic and we discount it. So some of the first steps towards realizing your value. Have you got that plan or that goal? Because if you haven't got that plan or that goal or that financial number or the amount of clients, like Karen says, it's difficult sometimes to keep ourselves on track and remind ourselves. We kind of lose sight of the main goal, and then that leads us to giving stuff away to next to nothing, and as I say, being apologetic for it. So are you able to imagine the outcome in your head? So is Karen able to understand what it means to get 55 new clients, and what would that mean in terms of the record tests and the record so that she will be doing, and how much more money does that mean for herself and Elspeth? And what does that mean in terms of margin and profit? You know, it's a really good time of the year. It's the start of the year to kind of sit down and work out those numbers and agree them if you're working with somebody else, or agree them in your own mind that you won't be dissuaded from them, and you will absolutely stick to them. And like I say, you might have to come back and watch this presentation later and almost do this work at the same time. So have you planned your year yet? Do you know what that looks like for you? Have you looked at it in quarters or weeks or months? Or so have you got your overall plan, and then have you broken it down? So is Karen's 55 new customers, meaning that she needs to get 5 more customers each month, and each of those 5 more customers needs to ask her to do security checks on 10 of their employees? So is she actually doing 50 new checks each month, let's say, for example, or 150 or 200 or whatever that might be? But without those numbers, it's easy for us to give in and be apologetic and end up not sticking to our own value. So just take a moment to consider some of those above. If you can want to share them in the comments. If you don't and you want to keep those private to yourself and you want to write them down separately or discuss them with your business partner, or if you are your own business, think about that and write them up and plan them into months, not just an overall plan. It'll get stuck to one side and takes ages to get there. You'll go off plan before you even realize. But if you're doing it monthly, maybe, or even weekly, then you will be able to stick to that and you'll know whether or not you're on your target. So goals and timescales are really important. So sometimes what stops us from doing this is we might have a little bit of an imposter syndrome. We might think, oh, I don't know how I've got here, or I'm waiting for, this happens in careers, in jobs, you know, someone taps you, you're waiting for someone to tap you on the shoulder and tell you that the game's up, they've worked out that you've been blagging it for the last 10 years, and that it's time for you to pack your desk up in your cardboard box and toddle off into the distance. And it happens with people who are naturally talented, more so than it happens with people that aren't. And the reason for that is because you can't almost explain to yourself why you are as good as what you do. So if you can't explain to yourself why you're as good as what you do, difficult for you to be able to explain to somebody else why you're so good at what you do and why you deserve the value that you're about to put on your services. So that imposter syndrome is the idea that people are not able to do the job, or they're a bit of a fraud. You know, if we've all got letters after our name and we've gone away and studied, then sometimes it might be a bit easier. But at the moment, when you're first starting your business, or that you're trying to gain that traction, it can be hard sometimes. So as I move in certain income from hospitality the last 30 years, therefore moving to a part-time income feels very shaky. I'd like to feel more I can. I totally understand that, Karen. And I think that's really admirable of you to put that in the comments, because I moved from a really large corporate, you know, it was really safe, always got paid whether I was there or I wasn't. I got paid whether I was on holiday in Mexico, you know, and it's a really, really worrying time to take a step out of that security into that part-time own business role. It's full of fear, but it's also full of excitement as well. I have mine planned per week as I place healthcare workers and managers. Fantastic, Laura. Brilliant. Brilliant. So if you've planned it into that weekly, then it's around what actions do you need to take to be able to deliver what that plan is. So putting the targets there is fantastic, but then what have you got in plan? What are the actions that you're taking to get there? So that imposter syndrome was a bit of a laugh. Here we've got Santa lying on the psychiatrist's couch. I think instead of worrying about why people don't believe in you, we should worry about why you don't believe in yourself. And it's, whilst it's poking a bit of fun, it's absolutely true. It's absolutely true that sometimes we just don't believe in ourselves, and organize or communities like the Network She is absolutely imperative for being able to know your value, because you're in a community full of really supportive women who all help you and all stand by your side, but often we don't necessarily ask for help either. Break down the big picture into sections. It's so much more realistic. Couldn't agree more, Karen. Absolutely. And you're right. It's not as overwhelming when you've broken it down. When you've sat, it's not everyone's favorite thing to do. Of course it's not. But sitting down and doing that planning makes a massive difference. So sometimes when you have a little bit of imposter syndrome, you might recognize some of these traits. You might have difficulty accepting praise. You might tend to discount your successes. You'll say, oh, it's down to luck. I just got that because I was lucky. I was in the right place at the right time. Something I don't believe in, I have to say. You overwork to the point of fault or failure because you want to prove yourself all the time. You feel a compulsion to be the best or be better. Absolutely, Laura. And we're all dying to get clients initially. Absolutely. You're often described as a bit of a perfectionist. Fear of failure will stop you from even trying because you're bothered that you won't get there and you won't do a really good job. And then that means you get into that circle, and it's a horrible circle to be in, that you can't take a step forward because you're too busy worrying about whether or not the next step you're going to take is going to be the right one. The truth of that is nobody really knows, and you really have to just get on and give it a go. Would you rather have tried and found the new way to do something than not have tried at all? You sometimes avoid showing confidence because you're worried that it'll get taken as being arrogant, potentially. You'll forego being better in place of being liked and accepted. It's definitely something I used to do, most definitely. And these are all traits of quite talented people, and you'll be very talented at what you do. You actually dread success due to the expectation of having to repeat it. So you've done really well, and now you worry, once you've done all of that, that you would not be able to meet that same level of achievement again. And you chalk up your success to luck or a bit of charm sometimes. If you're watching this, can any of you put in the comments if you agree, even if it's you've experienced that, or yes, I know some of those things make sense to me. If that's something that you've experienced or you're experiencing now or you've experienced in the past, don't just add something into the comments. And then we do the thing that we're really good at, is that we focus on the things that we haven't done. Rather than think about the successes we've had, we focus on the stuff that we haven't done instead. And that leads to that same cycle of then starting to diminish our confidence. Because rather than accepting the praise, rather than stepping up to the success that you've had because you've worked really hard, rather than just doing your best as you can do, rather than thinking absolutely, I worked hard for that. That's why I got it. I wasn't lucky. I'd worked really, really hard. This could be my profile, Karen, bless you. You see, we've all experienced some of these things, and how good it is that you're all in a community in Network She, where you're able to be honest and it's not judgmental and that it's supportive. You've got everything you need in your toolbox to be successful in 2021. And one of the biggest things, it will be Network She. So let's not focus on the things that we haven't achieved. Let's not focus on the stuff that we haven't done. Let's not say it's down to luck. Let's say it's down to bloody hard work, talent, endurance, and commitment. So things like, how many times should I try? This is a well-known slide that people may have seen before, and some of the elements of this are disputed and challenged. Steven Spielberg was rejected by University of Southern California, after which he dropped out and became a director. Richard Branson's launched several companies, as we all know, not least of them trying to get himself to space. Sylvester Stallone, whether you like him or not, apparently was rejected 1,500 times before someone took his script. There is a famous story that I think he sold his dog. I'm not entirely sure whether that's true or not. And James Dyson, over 5,000 times before he came up with the correct Hoover. Personally, I prefer a shark, but if you're a Dyson fan, you can't help but be admiring his commitment. So other people that have now, in our terms, seem to be very, very successful, have also had to try things several times to find the right pattern for them. So you're not on your own. It's not failure. It's just another discounting away it doesn't work before you find the one that is going to work for you. Debbie, discounting success, definitely. I remember Ruth telling me to stop saying I'm lucky. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because this actually leads nicely. I'll give you the 5 later, Debbie. I don't believe there's any such thing as luck. Don't get me wrong. If you avoid being run over by a bus by skipping back onto the pavement, then absolutely you've been lucky, but not in this respect. I don't think it exists. I think my definition of luck is when planning meets opportunity. When you've worked really hard for something, and rather than seeing that opportunity whiz past you because you're bothered or you're anxious or you're frustrated or you're not sure of your own value, you grab it by the throat, frankly, and make it your opportunity. So for me, you create that look because you've planned and you've worked hard, and whatever you've done up until now has got you to this point, and you are worth every bit of that value, and you're worth every bit of that confidence. We just don't like to appear confident. We don't like to say that to people. We're worried in case it makes us sound arrogant. No one can be that lucky all of the time. So maybe some things that you might want to think about for confidence and for realizing your value. Firstly, you need to know what that value feels like, that when you've done a good job, when you've been paid the right amount of money and you feel that you've been recognized for your value. So this, if you're watching, and I know that there are certainly 13 people watching this now, let's see if I challenge you, are you prepared? Can you list 3 things in the comments right now that you are really proud of? Nicola's just said, I used to always say that I was in the right place at the right time, but now I realize I was successful because I wanted it and pursued it, and it made me feel much better when I realized it. Absolutely perfect. And you're right, Nicola, because then when you realize that, that same confidence arrives that allows you to take the next opportunity and the next thing, and it doesn't let it go. So that realizing it and nourishing that part of yourself that reminds yourself of how clever, talented, hardworking and committed you are, makes you actually go for that next piece, that next part of life as well. So I'm not going to give you 5 minutes on this, but can you, for now, in the comments for me, write down 3 things that you are really proud of? Controversially, it's not about your children or whether or not you're good at driving a car, or whether or not you're a great parent or a great friend or a great sister or whatever that might be. But 3 things that you're really proud of in your business, about your talent. So this might be the bit that makes people squirm. What 3 things are you really, really proud of? And I'm going to wait and see what people put on. Who's going to put anything in? Debbie, taking the leap to leave work and find a new challenge and set up a business. Fantastic. Elspeth, getting over my fear of asking for help. My ability to build relationships. Changing career totally. Raising funds for charity. Being able to make people feel at ease. Nicola. Karen, after my home and my business, but I started again in business and I'm a very good cook, and that's what I'm still standing. Well done, Karen. Sonia, I got published 3 times last year, won the poetry section in the Learners last year, and have been approached to discuss some writing for Flintshire tourism. Wonderful, Sonia, that's fantastic. Look at that. So we can see our own value. And now everybody else who's commenting with you can see that you know that value. What a good start that is to 2021. Brilliant. So let's think about creating some commercial value. So we're going to assume that you've got that plan, or that's, yeah, exactly, Karen, go Sonia. Coming out of my comfort zone last year and embracing social media, setting up my top tips. Vicky, I am so chuffed you've done that because I think they're fantastic. I love watching your top tips. Stace, my determination to keep going and explore business opportunities. See what a brilliant bunch we are. Look at how much we know our value. So let's see if we can nail that into some commercial aspects. So this doesn't need to be done in the comments. And actually, you probably couldn't get this done in the time that I'm just online, because I don't want to steal anybody else's time, because obviously you've got other people coming up on the development and business working day. In fact, Nicola Coombe, I know, has also got her interview today as well, which is fantastic. So, Patrina, as a school sailing administrator, being given a task and making things happen, bringing a team of people together to do so. This is ace. Look at you all. I'm proud of starting my own family business after being put down so many times. This is ace. See, does this not make you feel better in the morning already? Start of the working year, and everybody is congratulating each other and recognizing all each other's values and achievements. It's ace. Should be doing more of this. So this is about, and it's going to be a weird one, this for some people, but it's about understanding your skill. So some people on this, even watching this now, I know. So if I think about Nicola Coon, for example, who has Morecambe Bay Wills and Estates, I know that Nicola could charge more for her services. I don't think we're going to be fibbing when we say that, but she's taken an ethical, a more altruistic approach to make sure that she makes everything affordable for people who otherwise are completely discounted from being able to have the wills done, be able the powers of attorney done. She makes it affordable on purpose because she's got an ethical and a value-based commitment to make sure it's available to people. So I understand that might be a reason why some people have a different charging mechanism. So I just want to recognise that. This is fab. It is fab, Nicola. It's ace. I'm loving it. So what about your skill? So this is about attributing a value. So have you ever sat down and thought about actually how much am I charging, and does it reflect how good I am at what I do, how confident I can be in what I do? So your skill, how much is your skill worth to somebody who's not got it? It'll be worth a fortune to somebody who's not got it. Your experience, thinking about the background that Karen comes from and Elspeth comes from, their experience that they brought from that market into their own business is huge. You know, Vicky's experience with all the money that she saved people, you know, all those things are experience. And the experience doesn't have to be in the market that you're in now. Your experience could be in customer services for Debbie, which is why she will be so brilliant in going into a baking business, because she's going to give fantastic customer service and take care of all of her clients. So your experience is one part and your skill is the other. They're not the same thing. So you can attribute value and confidence to your experience in more spades, if you will, than you can necessarily in your skill or in line with. Yeah, most people I do a garden for don't have a clue, and it always surprises me. Well, I would be one of those people because I am absolutely not got a clue. I kill any plant that comes into my home, Karen. Your labor, your time, how much time are you going to spend? And this is the thing. It's not just the time when you're in front of the client, it's the prep time beforehand in certain businesses and certain service offerings. And it's the completion time afterwards with the client. I think about the work that Nicola Coon does. You know, she preps everything beforehand. You go and see her, just 2 or 3 meetings with you, and she prepares all this documentation, this legal documentation. You know, you would pay 3 times what Nicola charges for all the prep she's done before, all the bit in the middle and all the bit afterwards. And that'll be the same for Karen. It'll be the same for Laura. It'll be the same for all of you. And actually, we're not reflecting that in our charging. We're almost looking at an hourly rate rather than a skilled, experienced and labor-based rate as well. Your impact, when it's your passion, yes, it is hard not to give more, but it's not hard to not charge more. Giving more is fine, but charging for it is important. So what is your impact? What impact are you going to have on people, and what's the value of that? So if you are service led, how much time are you saving your client that they can be freed up to go and do all the stuff? If I think about us doing social media and how much time it takes our clients when they're not familiar with it, actually that's our value. It's not just in getting them new clients. It's not just increasing their awareness and the footfall and the amount of sales and leads that they're getting, when we're really proud of that. That's important. But it's also about, we're freeing them up to go and do other stuff. So if I was doing Karen's social media or Ellie's or Nicola's or whoever's, you know, that time that we spend doing that stuff, that peace of mind you've got allows you to go out and get more business or do more of what you like, or frankly, go and walk your dog and not worry about it and have some time for yourself. So what is your impact on that client? And how is that improving their business? And that's in your cost. So what's your outcome? That's your unique multiplier. What's your value? And if you put an element of money toward each of those, an hour, you will come up with what looks and feels more like your value. And I'll probably hazard a guess right now that none of you are necessarily charging that. And then there's another secret part to that. What you're paying yourself. Whenever I do this exercise with people, they fill in all of that. But the bit that they leave at the end is that they've forgotten to put in their own hourly rate. So where are your wages? Does anybody on this, watching this, got the confidence to admit they've forgotten to put their own wages in there? What you're paying yourself. If you were a cost to your business, what would you be charging yourself? So there's all those pieces plus your hourly rate. Because people aren't just getting you for an hour, they're getting your skill, your experience, your labor, your impact, and the outcome value that you're giving to them, that they can go on and do other stuff. Oh, you're welcome, Sonia. Thank you very much. Thank you. So are you charging what you're worth? Let's be honest. Can you put in those comments right now? Are you all charging what you're worth? Sarah, morning, Ruth, absolutely agree. We value our service side of business, let alone the wealth of experience, particularly in hospitality and wedding cars. Definitely value experience before the physical item. Couldn't agree more, Sarah. A brilliant start to a Monday morning, just what I needed to kickstart my day. Oh, thanks, Vicky. So put that value in, and even if you come back and do this later, but are you actually charging what you're worth? If you're not sure, you know, later on today, if you feel confident, you could put a comment in the, or a post in the network in the mothership, and ask other people for their advice and their value. Do it in your power pods, whichever it might be. So if you've got a value, think about all the times that you didn't charge it last year. And we won't necessarily do this right now, but take some time to think about occasions where you didn't charge that full value. Calculate this. What would you have charged, thinking about it now? What should you have charged? What you're worth? What was the difference? And when you're not sure about sticking to your value when a client is trying to drill down your cost, how much have you said no to last year? And I know that you don't want to rip people off, Ellie, but based on what I know, you saved people. There is not a cat in hell's chance you and Karen are going to do that. You're too ethically driven for that. So it is about knowing your value and knowing your skill. There's no ripping off when you are doing something right. Ripping off means and suggests that you're doing something that is, you know, not right or shameful. And you would never do that. Even I know that already. So if you're wasting your own value, just if you're not sure about sticking to some of your value, think about these kind of questions. You know, what do you think personally when businesses constantly discount? What do you think of a brand when it then charges full price? You know, consider your reputational damage if you're constantly discounting. Also think about the fact that what you're going to do if two of your clients talk to each other and you've discounted for one and not for another, it leads to a really difficult charging mechanism. And then people can get a bit, you know, pissed at you that there's different charging and rate cards out there. So it's about sticking to your guns in that sense. And looking at your competitive field and looking at what value they offer, that's fine. But I've had people say to me, oh, well, you know, I'm charging this much because the nearest person to me charges 30 quid an hour, so I'm going to charge 28. I don't know why people would do that but you're you, they're them. Have you got more skill, more labor, more experience, more expertise? You can't compare apples and pears. So it's standing by that value. I'll come back to that another time. So how do you maintain that value? You know, set yourselves those objectives around your value of your spend and your earning. Write objectives down financially before you start. We talked about that. Plan your day, your actions, and what you're going to have going on. List the cost and time of each of those. So if you find yourself then suddenly going on YouTube and looking at videos for 2 hours, and then you look about how much your value and charge is worth for an hour, would you say that you've wasted that money, or would you say that you've invested that money in getting those jobs done? And if the total time that you're going to have to spend to deliver this service to this particular client who wants it at that cost, does it mean actually looking at how much your skill is worth, your labor is worth, your expertise is worth, the outcome value and your wages are worth? Are you actually going to make any money on that job? And sometimes might an hour on the sofa or an hour walking the dog or an hour having a nice relax in the bath be worth more value to you than doing a job for nothing that devalues your skill, devalues your expertise, devalues your experience and the outcome you're going to give? And if that's the case, revisit the list and change it. So the last bit, the couple of bits I'm just going to end on is the other thing is ways to say sorry that I'm not doing something for free. And you might want to look at this and take it away if you want to. You can even screenshot it if you wanted to. But when people ask you to do something for nothing, and I can't claim to have done these. I've just reworked some ones that I've seen elsewhere, but these might help you. You know, thank you for thinking of me. It sounds like a great piece of work or a great opportunity. Can I just check whether this is a paid opportunity or a paid piece of work? Really polite, makes the point. Thank you for the inquiry. Project sounds great. Here's a link to the services. You'll find a full description of the work I do and also the cost for my services. Nice way to do it. Thank you very much for thinking of me. Unfortunately, I'm not able to take on any unpaid work. If in the future you have a budget, please let me know. Could be worth doing. Or thanks for the message. And this is one that I get all the time. People message me with, can you just tell me how to do so-and-so? Can you just tell me? I don't mind answering those questions and certainly don't mind asking them on Network She. But it probably won't surprise you to know that sometimes I've had 10 or 15 message exchanges with people on Messenger who have messaged for help on their social media at 8 o'clock at night. And afterwards, I've actually had to kind of start doing things like this. Thanks for your message. I'm currently working on a paid piece of work for a client, so I'm unable to provide advice via Messenger. But I'm available for a paid session if you'd like. Here's the link if you would like to see what dates are available to suit you. They either book or they don't. But what I haven't done is just spent an hour giving a lot of free advice. I don't mind doing it in some places, like I say, the network. But if you're getting things like that, perhaps that might be something that could help you. So just some things to finish on. Remember, you aren't good because of luck. You're worth it because you've worked hard. You can do something that the client can't. You can do something that they should pay for. Or at least pay forward. You aren't playing at this. This is your business. This is your livelihood. I think people forget that sometimes about people that run their own businesses. And would you think you're going to get rich or successful by being too nice? I'm not saying it's not right to be nice, but it is absolutely, of course it is, but not when it's at a detriment to you, your self-esteem, your confidence, and potentially any earnings that you might want to take home. So some things you might want to do and think about. Do you think about charging deposits this year? You're going to do something slightly differently. Ask people to pay a deposit to reserve your services, or when they're ordering a cake from Debbie, or when they are asking you to commence a project or write a proposal or whatever it might be. Agree that scope of work before starting. People like to shift the goalposts, and Nicola Moore's watching right now, and I imagine that she will have experienced this when they ask for more and more and more as part of the outside of the original scope that you've agreed. Agree some payment terms up front, have them confirm and agree to that. Maybe have a cancellation policy. If you've got a deposit, you can have a cancellation policy. Turn work down, and I know that's going to sound controversial in our current times, but if that work means that you're actually in a negative, if that work means that you're doing things for a negative, it costs your health, your confidence, your self-esteem, your well-being, or your earning, you might want to think about whether or not you want that work. It's okay to be too busy and to say that you are too busy. And think before working for family and friends. Again, that's probably going to raise a couple of eyebrows, but not family so much, but friends definitely are the ones that normally end up wanting the most for the least in some businesses. Trust your gut. Absolutely trust your gut. And that is it. So what did people think to that? Was it helpful? Was it of any interest to anybody? Did it make any sense? It's all about your confidence and your value. You are really, really good at what you do. You bring skill, you bring expertise, you bring value, you're delivering value to the client, you're letting them be able to do things that they haven't done before. And and allowing them to get on and improve their business. And that's what you're doing for somebody else. And that's worth them paying for. It's worth them paying for, and it's worth them paying for what you're worth. So before we end up, can we have a couple of comments, please, around the fact that maybe you do know what you're worth, and you do know that value, and you are going to plan your year, or you are going to plan out how much you want and how much you won't settle for. I'm really hoping that it will work, Nicola. I've been guilty of doing it for free for friends. I've stopped it because I know how much I bring to them. So maybe a discount, but not a freebie. I could not agree more, Nicola. Brilliant. Really helpful. Some fantastic pointers. Hadn't thought about, so thank you again. And Lynn, I've arrived late, so need to rewatch. Definitely going to be helpful. Super. Right then. Well, I hope you all have a fabulous day. I hope you all realise how valuable you are and how fantastic you are at what you do, and how you should go out there with some confidence, knowing that if nothing else, lots of people in Network She and in this group agree that you are, and they know that you are, and they know you're going to be brilliant. And you might stumble a couple of times this year, but everybody does. Everybody does. And I think, and I hope that that's been helpful. So know your value, be confident about it, write it down, stick it on your forehead if you have to, do whatever it is you do, but don't let people take advantage of your confidence, and don't let people take advantage of your skill, your labor, and your expertise. And that's it for me for now. So have a fabulous day. And you've got other presenters coming up soon, so stay tuned for the rest of the day. And I'll see you all soon. Lots of love. Bye for now.